Very excited to welcome Doug Macleod to our studio this morning. Hi, Doug.
Hi, Tim. I'm very happy to be here.
Well, we're talking today about your wonderful article in PostScript called Celtic Colors. And it's a colorful article, wonderfully written. And the colors aren't all just out in the landscape. You really paint some colors about what's going on in the interiors here. And by interiors, I mean your own mind and heart and memories. And it starts actually, now that we've introduced the theme of color, it starts in black and white. It starts back when you're a child.
Yes, indeed.
And you're sitting in front of the screen. Your family had a tradition. Why don't you tell us about that?
Sure. In the article I mentioned, on growing up in North Vancouver, the week was centered on two major events. It was church on Sunday morning. We were a Scottish Presbyterian family. And on Monday night at 7:30, the family gathered around the TV to watch Don Messer's Jubilee on CBC. We were all, my dad turned the TV on 15 minutes early to warm it up so that everything would be perfect. So we were all there. We were united at that moment.
And so that link wasn't just that your dad was a taxpayer and he was paying for the CBC broadcast. I think maybe both your parents had connections to Scottish roots. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. I'm very proud of that. My mom and dad were raised in a place called Glengarry County, Ontario. It's in eastern Ontario, in between Ottawa and Montreal. It was settled by Scottish Highlanders during the late 1700s up until about 1840. And so the area for generations was almost entirely Scottish Highlanders, and all four of my grandparents spoke Gaelic. Their only world was entirely Scottish people and Gaelic-speaking Scottish people in the case of my grandparents. So it's hard for us to understand, but they saw themselves as a Scottish, or they referred to it as a Scotch community. So they saw themselves as Scottish, even though they were born here in Canada.
This article focuses on your decision to say, okay, I want to go experiencing a new dimension of that. Tell us about your trip back east.
First of all, the music, I hope, is really inspiring for anyone. But for me, there was sort of it kind of resonated in my bones. I felt a real connection. And of course, Cape Breton was also populated largely by Scottish Highlanders that were fleeing what was called the Highland clearances. So that the history of the people in many parts of Cape Breton is very close to my family history as well. So I felt a real strong connection in that sense.
This was not a sedate affair.
No, not at all. It's energetic, and fiddle music just sort of gets right inside you and just inspires you. So here's the scene, Tim, if you can imagine. So we're in a hall, and there'll be several fiddlers, and they usually accompanied with a guitar and maybe a bass, and they're working on a tune, and the tune just gets more and more spirited. Then all of a sudden, it just feels like it's about to burst, and one or two of them will put their fiddles aside, and they just have to step dance. And it's like that spirit just bursts out. So no, sedate would not be a good description at all of what goes on.
And it sounds like the audiences were very receptive.
Absolutely. Lots of clapping and cheering and sort of, the audience, you can see them kind of moving forward on their seats. I mean, they're on the stage with these performers.
So we can't talk about Nova Scotia without making particular note of its most famous son, perhaps, and that's Alexander Graham Bell. And I was particularly interested in the way you highlighted the fact that he started out in his career as a teacher with a particular specialization and one that really mapped over to your own personal experience. Can you tell us about that?
Sure, absolutely, Tim. First of all, I would like to tell people, if you're visiting Cape Breton, make sure you save an afternoon for the Alexander Graham Bell Center. It's well displayed. It's very interesting. My own experience, as you perhaps have observed, is I'm very hard of hearing. And in fact, I became a teacher of the deaf and taught deaf kids much of my career. And that's exactly what Alexander Graham Bell did as well. That's how he started out, as a teacher of the deaf. Also, his wife was deaf. And I think when you go to the center, you learn that became a driving goal in his life, to make life better for deaf people, make sure that they were included in the mainstream, and I think particularly that emotional attachment with his wife.
As I'm contemplating this in our conversation, I'm thinking, okay, this guy went all the way back east for a music festival. Tell me a little bit about that dynamic of getting yourself in a place where you can experience that auditory element that means so much to you.
Yeah, very good point. There's a big difference between understanding speech and absorbing sounds. So music is something that I still really enjoy. In fact, curiously, we went to several music festivals that summer. We were over on Vancouver Island going to some music festivals. So music's a fun part of my life.
I note that the theme of that festival was the universal language.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Music is a universal language, absolutely. Right. Yeah.
You mentioned that there was a sense of being transported across time and space.
Oh,
back
absolutely.
To the land of your grandparents.
Yeah.
And great grandparents.
Yeah. Or even my grandparents growing up in Ontario, because as I say, that was a root of Scottish culture as well. Yeah, so that I did feel transported. Just of course in my mind, but as I say, there's that yearning, and I felt that I was reaching back and connecting.
It gives me great pleasure to tell you, Doug Macleod, that our committee has awarded you the PostScript Excellence Award for Best Travel Article. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I'm quite honored. That's what I'm going to shake your hand, Tim. Thank you. That's a wonderful award. Okay, and I'll share that news with all my friends, I can assure you. Oh, here we are.
That's great. And so we have a certificate here for you, and I'm very delighted to present this certificate to you for the PostScript Excellence Award.
Thank you. This is indeed an honor, and I'm very proud of this award, so thank you.